The last time I spoke to you, I was speaking about my time playing Romeo in Romeo and Juliet in the classic play. Um, this one is also about a role I played prior to Romeo, and it was the role of the Artful Dodger in Oliver Twist. So I also played that, and that was an insight into the works of um, Dickens and what that meant. And one of the things I want to get across to people is that if you want to understand history, you have to go back into the history of the people that write what they write. For instance, Dickens, he had a very tough life. His childhood was absolutely horrific. His father went to debtor's prison. He lived in poverty. He worked in a blacking factory as a child. So he had personal experience of it. So he wanted, as a writer, to highlight all these things. The social criticism he had in all his books that he wrote were based on his motivation to enlighten everyone about the conditions that people live in and the realities of what was going on in that era, in the Victorian time. He also had a moral purpose to show that neglect and cruelty should not be part of the fabric of our country, and he did that. And then he also had literary ambition, because when he wrote Oliver Twist, it was his second novel, so he was working into it. But again, from this you see all the things that happen now. We still read Dickens, we still read Shakespeare. Dickens, The Christmas Carol is very popular, but most children know about it when they're young, the cartoons, the films, and the Happy Ever After, and the title Christmas. But it has a very serious undertones about life. Now, when I played the Artful Dodger, it was again one of those areas. I mean, I lived in Yorkshire at the time, so I did have a slightly Yorkshire accent at the time, and I had to play Dodger, who was, sort of, what I mean, sort of talker, consider yourself and all these sort of things. I had to get involved, and it was the musical of Oliver Twist, which was based on the musical Oliver, not Oliver Twist. That was a shock, because it obviously Dodger sings a couple of songs, and that would have made life really quite embarrassing for me, to be honest. But to be fair, the songs were more about shouting and consider yourself at home, consider yourself one of the family, and it was all that sort of stuff. So I got into that and got my accent up and correct because of the musical, because of the singing, and getting in, sort of looking at the original characters in the film and in the musical that played those roles. So I had people I could learn the method and whatever. You'll also notice, if you look at the thumbnail picture, that the person that was in it with me, who was playing a major character, was the same the same girl that played Juliet. So it was one of these fantastic plays that taught me a lot about what our society is. And one of the things that you learn if you act is that you really have to research. You have to research in detail about what it is you have got to deliver. If you don't embed yourself in that world for some time, you will not pull it off. It will not sound realistic. So even at a young age, I had this ability to be able to get into a role, but only because I went into the background. I mean, for instance, silly daft facts about the Victorian era that probably a lot of people don't know. But one of the drinks that people drank a lot of, and it included kids as well, was gin. I mean, look at gin today. Gin is one of those drinks that is seen as quite a posh drink. And yet they were drinking it by gallons when kids were on the streets and adults, and they all got pretty lashed doing it. But also the other thing I've learned is that the oysters were a main source of food. I mean, again, look, champagne and oysters, the way the world has turned upside down. The pyramid is upside down. And this was a world that was their normality, but there was so much depravity and poverty in the time of Dickens that goes beyond what we would really understand, although we do understand that poverty causes a lot of problems for society. I mean, look at society today. So actually playing the role of Dodger was not only a great sort of insight into education, but it's also another insight into British culture. And I'm talking about British culture. I'm not talking politically. I'm just talking about what actually happened in our country in history and how we dealt with certain things and what was going on. I mean, education didn't really become anything official until after 1870. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yet, look at us today. We are now moving on. And what's sad, I think, is that when students are working, and I have a lot of GCSE students, they don't read books anymore. They don't need to read books, but they should read books, but they don't read books anymore. And they have to read the text, so they don't read it willingly. But if we look at the way life was, we can see the similarities between generations and what's happened. And every generation is different. You know, my generation and my children's generation are going to behave and look at different things. We know that, but we move forward. But the core responsibility of people still remains the same. You know, we should be kind, we should look after people, we should have a fair society. And all of these things are about society and our life. And we must really relish our British culture and history, not use it in any other way. This is about life, living, and hardships. Sometimes we all moan and we complain, but when you start getting involved in drama and theatre, and I would say to every student, if you get the opportunity of getting involved in a play, do it. It's great fun. You have a lot of laughs. It's one of those things where things can go wrong and you have to learn things like ad-libbing. You have to think on your feet. You have to get things right. So all of these things are the benefits of theatre and reading historical dramas, because things were different, and it's almost going into a world of fantasy anyway, because it's not your reality, but you begin to become part of it. And look, there are going to be many more of these. The next video I'm going to do is going to be about another theatrical performance I did with a play called It's a Small War. Don't get it mixed up with the famous one, but it's called It's a Small War. And I played a juvenile delinquent, which is great. Loved it. Anyway, if this is of interest to you and you're enjoying these type of videos, please subscribe to my channel. And I have put at the bottom a link on this, a link to my resources shop. If you're a student, you want some help, go to the shop.